The wind tore across the barren plains of Verinex like a beast unchained, shrieking through twisted metal and shredded hull plates that once belonged to the USS Valiant. Jagged remains of the ship's fuselage jutted from the red earth like the bones of some ancient fallen creature. Smoke curled in lazy spirals from broken engines, their sputtering blue cores now dim with failure. Captain Ethan Cross groaned as he came to, blood crusting at the edge of his brow where his helmet had cracked on impact. He pulled himself upright with a wince, the taste of iron and static on his tongue, the sting of sand grinding into every exposed inch of skin. His hands, rough and calloused from years of service, worked through the emergency pack at his belt. He found the beacon bent, blinking faintly and coughing out a weak signal. He knelt beside a broken strut and planted it upright in the soil, watching. It stuttered to life. It wouldn't reach far in the canyon. Maybe orbit, maybe nothing. Either way, it was all he had. Days passed like a slow bleed. Ethan scavenged the wreck during daylight and buried the dead during dusk. There weren't many. The crew had died on impact. He'd long stopped letting himself feel that kind of grief. On the fourth day, as he climbed a slope to search for surviving modules, the wind shifted, carrying not just the usual whine of sand and metal, but something else. A sound that didn't belong. A whimper, faint, delicate, almost too soft to be real. But it was there, echoing through the jagged rocks below. Ethan's instincts snapped into focus. He slid down the slope, boots crunching into gravel and powdered rust, rifle unslung and at the ready. The sound drew him into a ravine littered with unfamiliar wreckage, sleek, curved panels etched with glowing blue lines that pulsed dimly. Beneath layers of dust, this wasn't Federation tech. It was alien. He moved slowly now, breathing shallow. A curl of smoke drifted from beneath a collapsed fin structure. Ethan ducked low, creeping past a shattered hull breach, and then he saw her. Curled in the shadows, half buried beneath glowing fragments, was a figure, small, trembling. Her skin shimmered faintly in shades of violet bioluminescent patterns, flickering weakly across her limbs like dying fireflies. Her hair spilled across her shoulders like liquid silver. Her breathing was shallow, eyes squeezed shut, body drawn in like a cornered animal. Alien, female. Hurt. Ethan raised his rifle instinctively, unsure. Was this a trap? A lure? His finger hovered near the trigger, but his eyes, his soldiers' eyes, saw the truth. She wasn't a threat. She was dying. As if sensing his presence, she stirred. Her eyes fluttered open wide, luminous, filled with fear. She tried to crawl backward, hands trembling against debris, but her strength failed. She collapsed with a ragged gasp, a wordless cry. He hesitated. Protocol said conserve. Protocol said protect yourself. But Ethan Cross had buried too many. Not today. He lowered his weapon slowly. It's okay, he whispered, voice calm, steady. I'm not going to hurt you. The girl stared up at him, terrified, too weak to run. I've got you. He stepped forward, dropped to one knee, and lifted her gently into his arms, shielding her from the wind as her glowing skin dimmed against his chest. The cave was barely tall enough for Ethan to stand in, its jagged ceiling clawing shadows against the flickering glow of a salvaged emergency lantern. He'd sealed the entrance with fragments of hull plating and thermal blankets, weaving together a crude shelter against the nightly storms of Verinex. Outside, the wind howled like some ancient predator pacing just beyond reach, its breath curling in through cracks with red dust and bone-dashed chill. Inside, silence. The alien girl Lyra lay still beneath a makeshift thermal sheet, her luminous skin pulsing faintly like a failing signal in the dark. Her breath came slow and shallow, and Ethan had been counting each rise and fall like a lifeline. He'd used every ounce of his medical training to stabilize her. He didn't know Valari, physiology, but bleeding was bleeding, and infection looked the same across species. The hardest part had been watching her wince every time he touched her, her body recoiling instinctively, like he was just another monster on this cursed world. But now, as the night settled thick and oppressive, Lyra no longer flinched. Her fingers occasionally twitched against the cold, and she'd stopped mumbling in her native tongue. That frightened him more than anything. Ethan sat against the wall, rifle across his knees, eyes fixed on her. He should have rationed his supplies. Should have kept that last shot of injectable antibiotics for himself. But something about the way she'd looked at him, her wide, luminous eyes locked with his in pure terror, her breath catching like. She'd already accepted death, made his choice for him. A sudden gust of wind slammed against the outer barrier, and the metal groaned under the pressure. Ethan rose, shoulders tensing. It wasn't just wind this time. Footsteps. He dropped the lantern's light and crouched, weapon raised, heart hammering in his chest. For a breathless moment, he heard it again, scraping metal and a low, guttural hiss. Something was moving outside. Something that wasn't weather. Then silence. He waited. 1 minute, then 2. Finally, he exhaled and returned to Lyra's side. But she was awake, her eyes open, glowing faintly in the dark. She stared at him, confused, lips parted slightly as if trying to speak. He lowered the weapon. "Hey," he said quietly, crouching beside her. "You're safe. I won't let anything happen to you." Her lips trembled. She spoke in a whisper, broken and garbled, the translator on her collar sparking weakly. "Hunt me, they come again." Ethan frowned. "What? Who's coming?" Lyra's hand jerked upward, clutching his sleeve. Her skin felt cold. Black ... Fong. The name meant nothing to Ethan yet. But the way her voice cracked, the way her light dimmed with terror, he understood enough. Whoever they were, they had chased her across the stars. And they weren't done. He squeezed her hand gently. Not this time. Over the next 2 days, Lyra drifted in and out of fevered sleep. Ethan moved like a ghost, scavenging during daylight, watching the horizon at dusk. He reinforced the cave, booby-trapped the entrance, conserved water by recycling condensation. He was a soldier, a survivor. And now, a protector. By the 4th night, Lyra sat up on her own. She hadn't said much, but she watched him, closely. Like she was studying not just his face, but the reason behind it. He offered her a bite of protein ration. She chewed slowly, then whispered, "Ethan." He blinked. "That's right, you remember." She nodded. "Ethan. Brave." He gave a soft laugh, though it didn't quite reach his tired eyes. "Nah, just too stubborn to die." Lyra shook her head weakly, then reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were warmer now, steadier, but before he could respond, the beacon flared bright, sudden. The soft pulse it emitted had strengthened. It was working, maybe. Ethan stood quickly, checking the diagnostics. A flicker of hope sparked in his chest. Rescue could be coming. And then the signal spiked. Not a reply from Federation Channel, something else. A ping. An intercept. And suddenly, Lyra whispered, "Too late. They hear." Ethan looked up. Her eyes were wide, glowing, terrified. Outside, through the narrow cracks in the cave's barrier, distant lights flashed across the sky. Not stars. Not meteors. Engines. Coming fast. The rising sun on Verinex brought no warmth, just a pale, sickly glow that filtered through rust-colored clouds, casting the landscape in hues of dried blood and burnt metal. Ethan stood at the mouth of the cave, visor down, rifle slung across. His back, eyes fixed on the sky where the night before he'd seen the unmistakable flash of approaching ships. The clouds had swallowed the light since, But that didn't mean the danger had passed. He scanned the horizon. No movement. No dust trails, but the silence itself was unnatural. Even the usual shriek of wind was subdued, like the planet was holding its breath. Behind him, Lyra stirred. Her wounds were healing faster now, thanks to a lucky find, an intact Valari nano-mesh kit recovered from the remains of her ship. Ethan had risked his life climbing through the wreckage to retrieve it, dodging collapsing struts and energy feedback. It had been worth it. The light had returned to her skin, and her voice was clearer each day. But with strength came fear. And memory. They saw the beacon, she said quietly, sitting cross-legged on the cave floor, her silver hair cascading over one shoulder. They track signal distortions. Raiders do not need coordinates, only echoes. Then we stop broadcasting, Ethan replied. She shook her head slowly. Too late, if signal was sent. They already follow. He sighed and turned away. He hated the way she said it with calm certainty. Not panicked, not hopeless, just accepted. But he hadn't spent his whole life clawing through battlefield hellscapes just to lie down and wait for death. No, he muttered. We prepare. The next 2 days passed in hard silence. Ethan scouted every ravine, every rock outcrop, learning the terrain by instinct. Lyra, though still weak, guided him with quiet precision. Her knowledge of Verinex, of the terrain, the native flora, the mineral-rich crystal growths was unlike anything the Federation had ever documented. In a glowing canyon laced with bioluminescent vines, she showed him how to extract raw energy from a native plant whose roots pulsed with heat. It was unstable, dangerous, but Ethan used it to power a relay boost to the beacon. One last call to the Federation. A flare in the sky interrupted their progress. This time, they both saw it, a dark streak tearing across the clouds. Engines. Low altitude. Controlled descent. Ethan grabbed Lyra's wrist. We move. Now they ran. Through narrow gullies and twisted rock formations, guided by instinct and memory. Lyra stumbled twice, her leg not fully recovered. Each time Ethan caught her before she fell. He didn't speak. He just kept her close, eyes flicking between the terrain and the sky. When they finally reached the overlook above the canyon, Ethan dropped to one knee, raised his scope, and focused in 3 gunships, sleek, black, marked with blood-red emblems. The Black Fong Raiders. They're not scanning, Ethan whispered. They already know where we are. They hunt me, Lyra said softly, her voice trembling now. Not you. Only me. Valari tech. My mind? They want it. Ethan turned to her. Then they'll have to kill me first. She stared at him, stunned. Why? You risk. Because, he said, his voice hard and quiet, I don't let people get taken. That night, they didn't sleep. They moved instead quietly, urgently through shadowed paths to the remains of her fallen ship. It was still half buried in rock, but Ethan had marked it as their fallback point. The entrance was crushed, but the rear core was intact. Lyra touched the curved wall with reverence. Reactor still hums, she whispered. If we overload the pulse, it will blind everything for 20 kilometers. Ethan gave a grim nod. You think we can survive it? Her silence was answer enough. He stared at her, this strange, glowing girl who should have been an enemy, or at least a mystery. But now she was something else entirely. He'd carried her from death. Shared fire and silence. Bled for her. And if this was the end, then they'd make it count. In the valley below, the pirate ships landed. Dozens of armed figures spilled out, fanning across the ridges with purpose, but they weren't scanning. They were herding, driving Ethan and Lyra to where they wanted them. We're the prey, he muttered. Lyra's fingers tightened around his hand. Then let us show them what prey becomes when cornered. Ethan met her eyes. Let's make them regret ever landing on this rock. Above them, Thunder cracked across the sky, not weather. Not natural. The sound of war coming. The storm broke not from the sky, but from the earth. It began with a tremor. A subtle shift beneath Ethan's boots as he crouched near the shattered hull of Lyra's ship. At first, he thought it was just another aftershock, one of Verinex's many tectonic spasms. But then the sound followed, a low, bone-deep hum that didn't belong to geology. It was artificial, controlled. A drone of power warming to life. He turned. Lyra stood near the core access panel, her hand pressed against a pulsating glyph embedded in the sleek alloy. The ancient Valari design responded to her presence, glowing brighter with each second. "It's waking," she whispered. Her voice was almost reverent, and yet full of dread. "You said the core could overload. Can it do more?" Ethan asked, stepping closer. Lyra hesitated, the light from the panel illuminating her silver hair. "It could shield or destroy, but it must choose. It cannot do both." Ethan's jaw tightened. They didn't have the luxury of defense and offense. Not anymore. Beyond the ridgeline, the Black Fang raiders were moving. He spotted them in the distance, black armored figures advancing in tight, deliberate formations. They weren't searching blindly. They were closing in, corralling, herding them toward an ambush. And in the skies above, a larger ship now loomed, casting its long shadow across the canyon walls. A command cruiser. Ethan crouched, peering through his scope. "The pirates had brought everything. They want you alive," he muttered. "They'll burn half this planet to take you intact." Lyra flinched. "They don't want me. They want my mind." Valari neural architecture. Adaptive. Compatible with Terran tech. They think I'm a key. Ethan looked at her sharply. "Compatible?" She nodded slowly. We were explorers. We studied pre-Federation ruins, ancient machines. Some said Valari and humans shared roots, a common spark. But no one believed it. Now Ethan did. It explained too much. Her linguistic adaptation, the translator syncing faster with her voice, the way the energy in her ship reacted to both of them. He didn't have time to process it. Not now. A blaster bolt screamed past the rocks to his left, searing the stone and forcing him down. "They're here," he snapped. Lyra backed toward the access hatch, eyes wild. "I need time to root the core. You must keep them away." Ethan was already moving. He sprinted across the broken terrain, sliding behind cover just as another shot cracked overhead. Dust exploded around him as pirate scouts closed in, their boots pounding over gravel and glass. He fired back precise. Unrelenting. His shots drove 2 raiders to cover, dropping a third who made the mistake of rushing without aim. But they kept coming. Dozens, maybe more. They had numbers. He had purpose. He ducked behind a crumbled pillar and activated a proximity charge, slamming it against the rock. "Come on, you bastards," he growled. "Follow the signal." It worked. A small unit of 5 broke from formation, closing on his position. As they passed the charge boom, the canyon wall erupted in a fireball of shrapnel and dust. 2 went down screaming. Ethan rolled, took the other 3 mid-stumble. 1 round each. Clean. His breathing was ragged now, lungs burning, but adrenaline drowned the pain. Back at the wreck, Lyra cried out. Sparks shot from the ship's rear. "It's ready," she shouted. "Core is primed. We overload on your word." Ethan ducked back toward her just as a raider captain, a massive brute in heavy armor, descended on the clearing. Ethan met him head on. The two crashed together in a tangle of limbs and fists. The captain's gauntlet slammed into Ethan's ribs, cracking bone. But Ethan didn't let go. He drove his plasma knife upward between plates, into flesh. The raider went down with a gurgling scream. Ethan staggered back, bloody and gasping. Lyra caught him, her arms barely strong enough to steady him. "You're hurt," she said. "I'm fine," he lied, though he could feel the sharp stab of something broken inside. From the cliffs above, dozens of raiders began to swarm into the canyon. The final push. "We end it now," he said, gripping her hand. "Do it." Lyra pressed her palm to the final glyph. The core pulsed, a heartbeat made of light dot as the raiders flooded into the canyon. Weapons raised, Ethan turned to face them. He stood tall. No more running. No more hiding. Just defiance. The sky above them cracked open with the white heat of the overload. And Verinex roared. The pulse wave hit like a god's scream, blinding, deafening, absolute. Every raider ship was torn apart mid-hover. The ground split. Metal screamed, and in the center of the storm, Ethan threw his arms around Lyra and held her close as the light swallowed them both. The silence after the blast was unnatural, so still it rang louder than the explosion itself. Dust hung thick in the air like suspended ash from some divine fire, glowing faintly in the ruined canyon. The rocks still trembled with aftershock. Groaning under the weight of the destruction, Ethan stirred first. Pain had carved through his ribs like molten wire. Every breath tasted like blood and smoke. But he was alive. Somehow. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the haze. Lyra lay cradled beneath him, her body limp in his arms, silver hair splayed across his chest like threads of moonlight. Her skin had dimmed again, the vibrant glow of her bioluminescence flickering faintly, as though her very essence had been drained by the pulse. No, come on. Ethan sat up with a groan, cradling her face, brushing the dust from her cheek. Her eyelids fluttered and her lips moved without sound. "I've got you," he whispered. "You're okay. You're okay." He didn't know if he was reassuring her or himself. Around them, the battlefield was eerily transformed. The pirate corpses lay scattered like broken toys, armor warped and melted from the overload. Gunships had been torn apart there. Hulls caved inward by gravitational feedback. The towering command cruiser, once a monstrous silhouette in the sky, now listed sideways atop a distant cliff, its engines blown out, one wing buried beneath the mountain it tried to command. Ethan stumbled to his feet, dragging Lyra gently with him. She coughed once, shallow, sharp, and opened her eyes. "You stayed," she whispered. He smiled, aching, bruised, barely standing. "Told you I would." They didn't speak as they made their way through the devastation. Not much strength left between them. Not many words left to say. At the far edge of the canyon, near the shattered signal tower he'd cobbled together from the beacon days ago, a soft green light pulsed, a Federation response. His final hail had been answered. Ethan reached the console, falling to his knees. He activated the emergency flare just as the sky above cracked with the shimmer of re-entry. Sleek vessel descended like a falling star. USS Horizon, a long-range Federation recon ship. Its landing struts hissed against the scorched ground. Floodlights piercing the smoke like the gaze of judgment. Figures emerged in pristine white suits. Medics, engineers, armed escorts. They moved quickly, scanning the wreckage, stunned by the sheer scale of what had happened. One officer knelt beside Ethan and Lyra, stunned. You're alive?" the medic stammered. "We thought the beacon was malfunctioning. There shouldn't be anything left down here." Ethan didn't answer. He just tightened his arm around Lyra. They were loaded onto a medical transport with urgency. Ethan refused to be separated from her. Even as they inserted IVs, patched wounds, cleaned radiation burns, he held her hand, never letting go. Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness. Once, as the ship left the atmosphere, she turned her head weakly. "You save me again," she murmured. He gave a tired laugh, voice rough. "I'd do it 1,000 times over." When they reached orbit, The view from the medbay window caught Ethan off guard. Half of Verinex's upper continent was glowing, a chain reaction from the pulse. The damage was contained, but unmistakable. A monument of annihilation carved by love, desperation, and one impossible stand. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. A week passed. Then, too, on board the USS Horizon, Lyra recovered quickly with Federation-level care, her body adapting with impressive resilience. Her bioluminescence returned stronger than before. Ethan's wounds were slower. His body had taken more punishment than any standard soldier should have survived, but he didn't complain. He spent his recovery beside her, every day, every hour, learning pieces of her language, helping her navigate Federation systems. Their bond grew in the quiet. No more gunfire, no running. Just time, but peace was fleeting. A coded message came through on restricted channels. Federation Command had reviewed the Verinex encounter, and what Lyra revealed, the potential of Valari neural architecture, the compatibility, the signal data, was too dangerous to ignore. Orders were issued. Lyra was to be relocated, quietly. For observation. For security. For containment. Ethan exploded. She's not a threat, she's a survivor. She saved the quadrant from pirate occupation. The Admiral's hologram didn't flinch. She's also proof of something we've spent centuries denying. If Valari genetics sync with Terran tech, if her people really did come from the same source as us, that's not justification to lock her in a lab. You're a soldier, Captain. You don't get to rewrite policy. No. Ethan said, eyes hard. But I'll burn your policy to the ground before I let you take her. The comlink shut off. The warning clear, but so was Ethan's resolve. He turned to Lyra. We're not done fighting, he said softly. Lyra stepped forward, light shimmering across her skin. She touched his face gently, her expression calm. I never believed fate, she said, but I believe you. Together they stared out the viewport, two souls forged in fire, hunted by politics and pasts, but unbroken. Next move would change everything. The stars above the USS Horizon shimmered like silent witnesses, brilliant and cold, unaware or perhaps uncaring of the storm brewing within the ship's pristine corridors. Captain Ethan Cross stood alone before the observation deck, arms crossed tightly, jaw clenched as he watched the swirling planet of Verinex fade into the distance. What had once been hell was now the beginning of everything. And perhaps the beginning of the end. Behind him, the soft hiss of the door interrupted his thoughts. She's stable, said the ship's medic, a grizzled man with cybernetic implants and a permanent scowl. Physically. But there's something you need to see. Ethan turned. She's awake? She's been awake, but not entirely here. She's remembering things. The medic hesitated. Things we didn't pick up in scans. Ethan's stomach twisted. What kind of things? The medic's eyes were grim. Technology, designs, schematics. She started sketching them in the medbay on the wall. She didn't even know she was doing it. The moment we gave her a stylus, she drew a neural lattice that matches the Forbidden's precursor diagrams ones. The Federation classified 200 years ago. Ethan's blood turned cold. She doesn't know what she's doing, he said. She's not a threat. That's not what Command believes. They weren't there, Ethan growled. They didn't see her save my life. Save all of us. The medic handed him a data pad. Then you better make them believe it before they remove her from this ship. Ethan didn't reply. He turned and strode down the corridor, ignoring the stares of crewmen who passed him. Some looked at him with others with fear. Rumors had spread quickly. The lone survivor who held off an entire pirate battalion. The alien girl with glowing skin. the weapon hidden in her mind. By the time he reached the medbay doors, 2 security officers were already stationed outside. Too late. His chest tightened. "I need to see her," he said. "Command override has been activated, sir." "We're under." "Orders to, I am command," Ethan snapped. "And unless you want me to drag both of you into court-martial hearings where I tear your records apart fiber by fiber, you're going to open that door right now." The guards glanced at each other. The taller one tapped his wrist console. The doors hissed open. Lyra was seated on the far side of the room, pale violet light glowing softly from beneath her skin. Her fingers were moving quickly over a holographic tablet, her face vacant, distant, almost trance-like. Lines, curves, equations in Valari. Then Terran Standard. Then something else entirely, glyphs that twisted the mind to look at. "Lyra," Ethan said softly. Her hand stopped. Her eyes slowly lifted to meet his. In an instant, recognition bloomed, and with it, fear. "Ethan," she whispered. "They know." He crossed the room, dropping to one knee beside her. "What are you remembering?" "I don't know." "Dreams? But not mine. Not just mine. As if someone else lived through me, or built something through me." She leaned forward, trembling. "My mind is unlocking things. Coordinates, architectures, ancient machines. Not pirate technology, not Valari. Older, buried, hidden." Ethan touched her face gently. "That's why they want to take you." "No," she whispered. "They want to use me. The same way the pirates did." Before Ethan could respond, the ship's alarm sounded sharp and sudden. "Security breach in Sector 7. Unauthorized docking. Prepare for boarding." Ethan shot to his feet. No, not again. He reached for his cum. "Bridge, report. Unknown vessel attached to our underside. It's jamming our scanners. Internal shields are dropping. We've got incoming. Repeat, we've got..." The cum cut to static. Ethan turned to Lyra. "They followed us." "Black Phone?" she asked. "No," he said grimly. "Worse." He yanked open a wall panel and tossed her a sidearm. "Where?" "Not staying here. We're not letting them take you." "But where do we go?" He looked her dead in the eye. "To the heart of the storm." Together they ran. Down the corridors, past flickering lights and confused personnel. Gunfire erupted. 3 decks below, someone was breaching through the lower labs. Ethan tapped into the security feed with his wrist console. Black armor. Not pirate -mark. Federation strike troopers. No cal signs, Ethan muttered. No unit insignias. Ghost Squad. Federation sent killers? Lyra gasped. "No," Ethan said, rage simmering under every word. "They sent thieves." They burst into the auxiliary hangar. There, among inactive scout shuttles, Ethan made a decision. This ends now. He activated one of the stealth runners, a 2-seater recon vessel. As the engines powered up, alarms screamed louder. Lyra slid into the co-pilot's chair. "They'll chase us." "They'd have to catch us first," Ethan said, slamming the launch lever forward. The floor split open, and with a thunderous roar, they were airborne into the stars, into open defiance, and into the unknown. Tars blurred past the cockpit like streaks of rain on black glass as Ethan gripped the controls. Jaw clenched, hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. The stealth runner hummed with power, a sleek predator against the silence of space, but it wasn't built for outrunning Federation warships, especially not them, the Ghost Squads. Off the books, untraceable and ruthlessly efficient. Behind him, alarms buzzed from the stolen console. Lyra worked furiously, fingers dancing over the interface as she scrambled to reroute their trajectory. "We can't keep this speed without overloading the sublight stabilizers," she warned. "The hull isn't rated for this pressure." Then, we risk it, Ethan said, eyes locked on the swirling blue tunnel of space forming ahead. Because if they catch us, it won't be pressure that kills us, it'll be policy. The console sparked. They're locking missiles, Lyra breathed. Ethan didn't flinch. Not if we jump first. He punched the emergency hyperspace trigger. The engine screamed out, the world tore sideways. A blink, a burn, then silence. They fell out of hyperspace, like a broken prayer, half tumbling, half floating into the orbit of a blue-white world wrapped in coiling clouds and bioluminescent rings. Lyra stared through the viewport. Her voice caught in her throat. I know this place. Ethan turned to her. Where are we? She tapped the console, overlaying star maps. This system isn't marked on any Terran database. But in Valari memory chant, it's called Ellerith. Sanctuary of the First Starlings. A myth. Is it safe? No. She looked at him. It's important. They descended through the clouds, their ship sparking from the strain, guided more by instinct than coordinates. The moment they breached the atmosphere, the clouds parted to reveal a forgotten world of crystalline forests, towering black obelisks, and rivers that shimmered like light in motion. At the center of it all was a massive structure, circular, half-buried, pulsing faintly with energy. The archive, Lyra whispered. It didn't look like a building. It looked like a sentient wound in the earth, breathing slowly. Ethan landed the ship just shy of its perimeter, near a bridge of darkened stone. The moment they stepped outside, the air shimmered, humming in response to Lyra's presence. Something ancient had felt her return. As they crossed the bridge, Ethan kept his weapon ready, but no enemies came, only silence. And then, a voice not from outside, but from within their minds. Descendant, carrier, key. Lyra gasped and staggered. Ethan caught her. It's speaking, she said. The archive. It's alive. She approached the core gate as it opened for her, revealing a chamber of impossible size, the walls covered in glowing script Ethan couldn't understand, but somehow felt. The language wasn't just written. It resonated. Lyra reached the central pillar. A pulse of light erupted around her, and in that moment, everything came back. Her body locked in place. Her eyes glowed like stars. She's sinking, Ethan breathed. With what? With truth. Images poured from the archive. Holograms of Earth and Valari homeworlds. Genetic strands interwoven. The same ancient ancestors. Shared precursors. Ethan staggered backward. This isn't myth. No, Lyra said, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks. It's memory, your people and mine. We were never meant to be strangers. We were once the same. The Federation knew. And they'd buried it. Lyra turned to him, light flowing through her veins like starlight. This is why they want me silenced. I'm not a weapon. I'm a mirror. If others see the truth, what they tried to erase, everything changes. Ethan stepped toward her. Then we show them. Behind them, a tremor shook the chamber. The sky above darkened as the Federation dreadnought Daedalus descended through the clouds. They followed. Lyra whispered, "Then we finish this." Ethan activated the comm beacon from the runner. Open broadcast, no encryption. Ethan, they'll track it instantly. That's the idea. He stepped forward and activated the channel. This is Captain Ethan Cross, Federation Serial 914 Row. I am broadcasting live from Archive Ellerith. The Federation is lying to you. Our species and the Valari share a common origin. They've buried this knowledge, fought wars to erase it. I'm standing with Lyra, a Valari explorer, and the archive is waking. Everyone listening, see us, remember us. We are the same. Within seconds, the skies erupted with light more than just Federation ships. Valari vessels emerged from warp, ancient ones. Long silent, The standoff began, but no shots fired. Not yet. Ethan turned to Lyra, who was glowing like a star reborn. What happens now? He asked. Lyra stepped forward to the archive's core and pressed her hand against the final panel. A wave of energy expanded outward, non-violent but undeniable. A signal across all known space. Every system. Every world. Truth had been released. I don't know what tomorrow brings, she said, turning to him. But today, we changed everything. Ethan stepped closer and cupped her face, his voice raw. Lyra, through war and wreckage, through storms and fire. I didn't just find truth. I found you. She smiled, tears glowing like gems. And I found my heart in the place I thought I'd die. Their lips met beneath the pulsing light of the archive, as stars above bent toward them in reverent silence. No longer fugitives. No longer lost. Just two souls, finally found standing at the beginning of a new age.